consultant to address the question. I'm going to ask you to be sworn and
Yes.
your full name, please.
For the record, my name is Carl DeKay, Allen Penn. He is Peter, E-H-N-K-E.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Penn, he's the traffic engineer, who's appeared before this board. He's going to accept this effort.
We accept this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carl, in connection with this development, Toll Brothers had requested you analyze the traffic patterns, internal circulation, and the impacts to the traffic in the surrounding community. Have you done that?
That's correct, yes.
You have a presentation to present to the board.
Yes.
Why don't you go ahead and do that?
So for this application, and as part of the application package, I did prepare a traffic impact study dated March of 2019. That traffic study has built upon quite a bit of the work that I've done over the years and my involvement in planning for this property that dates back to probably the mid-90s till late 90s. The traffic impact study was prepared in accordance with standard traffic engineering methodologies. The study documents an accumulation of traffic volume data that was collected on the roadway system dating back to 2013. During the life of this project, since we started planning back then for this particular application, we've been out several times and sampled the roadway system in 2014, 2016, 2017, and as recent as January of 2019. The volumes that are documented in the traffic study are accumulation and assemblage of that data, and we've generally found that the data has been consistent through the year. In fact, there's been some areas where traffic has gone down, there's been some areas where slightly gone up, but overall it's been consistent for planning purposes. The traffic study further goes forward and prepares projections for the proposed residential development and assignment of that traffic to the road system. And then it documents an analysis of the development of Middletown Wall under two scenarios. Under the scenario that it gets developed independent and separately or in advance of the commercial development that was recently approved by this board. And then lastly, it just redocuments the overall, if it gets, when everything is completed, the commercial project and the residential project. This evening we're here on the residential project alone and discuss the design of the access and the impact and operation of driveways associated with the residential project. A little bit of housekeeping in terms of some of the basics of the traffic study. The project is proposed to develop 350 residential units. There's 280 townhouse units as discussed in prior testimony and 70 units in an apartment configuration. We have projected traffic based upon data published by the Institute of Transportation Engineer in the document Trip Generation, which is now in its 10th edition. We continue to elect to use in this study the 9th edition, which was somewhat more conservative in terms of some of the volume projections in it. The project, when completed, the 350 units, we anticipate will generate during peak hours. And when I talk about peak hours, traffic engineers look for the highest volumes on the roadways and to analyze it in terms of a 1 hour period. Generally, that occurs in the morning when people come to and from work. So in this case, it occurs between 7:30 and 8:30 in the morning. We also find an evening peak. In this case, that's generally occurring between 4:45 to 5:45. And then because of the retail component, we had to analyze throughout our planning of this project was Saturday, and that occurs on midday periods on Saturday. So in the morning peak hour, we would expect 350 units to generate approximately 28 vehicles entering over the course of the hour in the morning, and about 128 vehicles exiting over the course of an hour in the morning. In the PM peak hour, which actually turns out to be the most critical period for an this corridor. It's where we're seeing the highest traffic volumes during the day as compared to the AM given Saturday. We expect to see approximately 130 vehicles enter the overall residential development site over the course of an hour, and approximately 66 exit. You have a little more inbound, outbound in the evening for residential development because you do have people coming home from work, but you do have the other activities associated with community life, people starting to go out and do their shopping or evening activities, entertainment, and so forth. So that reflects that distribution that you see in and outbound movement during the PM peak hour. That traffic will distribute to the road system, and we analyze and develop that for the peak hours by looking at demographic data, particularly journey to work, where people that live in Middlesex, Middletown Township, where they work, and then we look at the existing traffic patterns on the roadway to rationalize that. We expect about 22% of our traffic will be oriented off to the north on Route 35, approximately 27% towards the north and west, Kings Highway to the Parkway. About 40%, 42% of our traffic will be oriented to the south on 35, and then there is a percentage that will orient towards Route 36 to the east, heading up to the Atlantic Highlands or to the New York waterways and so forth, utilizing the roadways to the east. That's a smaller percentage, it's about 9% of our traffic. So traffic dissipates through the roadway system. The project, as been described and proposed, is going to be accessed in two separate ways. So we have the townhouse community. The townhouse community will be provided access via 3 new streets. There will be a street constructed on Kings Highway, located opposite Kings Landing Road, Augustus Way, which will feed into the community from Kings Highway. Associated with the project and in accordance with the redevelopment plan, there will be a new roadway, a new township street, yet to be named, but referred to as the Connector Road, extending between Kings Highway East to Kings Lane. That road will be constructed coincident with the outset of construction of the residential development, should it proceed before the commercial development, or the outset of construction, the commercial development proceeds first. The Connector Road is one of the first elements of infrastructure constructed with this project. It's an important link because we take 2 street connections from the Connector Road, which is Edmund Way, about midway through the townhouse development, and Oliver Court, which is toward the southern end of the townhouse development. So there are 3 different points of access to the townhouse community. The multifamily apartment development will have a single point of access, and that will also be from the Connector Road towards the northern end of the Connector Road, about 200 feet in from Kings Highway East. The development and construction of the Connector Road provides some enhanced connectivity for Kings Highway East and Kings Lane to Route 35. It provides the ability for traffic on Kings Lane to have another point of ingress and egress rather than the right in, right out that exists on Route 35 today. It provides the ability of townhouse residents and the apartment residents, as well as other residents along Kings Highway, if they wish, to utilize Kings Lane to get to the Woodland Avenue, Woodland Road jug handle. And it also provides the connectivity to get to the Kings Highway East and to Route 35 north. The driveways, based upon our analysis, both without development of the commercial development and with development of the commercial development and its associated traffic, are all projected to operate at good levels of service. The driveway or the street Augustus Way on Kings Highway will provide a 20-foot egress drive, which will accommodate left turn and right turn movements, and a 20-foot ingress drive. Kings Highway East will remain as is with a single lane in each direction to preserve the existing tree line that's along Kings Highway East. Edmund Way also will will have a 20-foot ingress and egress side of the boulevard type entrance and accommodate a single lane accommodating left turns and right turns onto the connector road. And Oliver Court will be a 24-foot wide street, which again will have one inbound lane, one outbound lane, permit left turns and right turns onto the connector road. The overall development is designed in a typical development layout for a townhouse community. The streets are all 24 feet wide in accordance with residential site improvement standards and the redevelopment standards. Parking is provided throughout the development. As discussed at the last meeting, the parking has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the residential site improvement standards, which are statewide standards controlling parking for developments such as this. Those standards include the needs of the community, which include the residents, their visitors, and all typical activities associated with a residential community, either the apartment complex or the townhouses. The parking that is being provided is more than sufficient to accommodate the everyday needs. And in fact, the townhouse exceeds the residential site improvement standards, and on the townhouse we meet the residential site improvement standards. So parking will be more than adequate, safe, and meets the standards that are used statewide for the design of parking facilities such as this. The internal circulation has been designed to accommodate the types of vehicles that will flow through the site, including emergency vehicles, passenger cars, move-in, move-out vans, and it's typical to the design of a residential development. As I indicated, the driveways will all operate at good levels of service. Sure. So the inbound movements, all the left turn inbound movements will operate, well, let's go back to what levels of service are for the people in the audience. Traffic engineers have been going through a series of computations and calculations related to volume flow and delays, end up rating intersection capacities and levels, in terms of levels of service. So the levels of service are very similar to a grade school report card of old, which ranges from level of service A to level of service F. Level of service A is obviously free flow conditions, no delays, generally no queuing. Level of service F is basically considered a failing condition, an overcapacity condition, and it would be akin to a situation where you arrive at a traffic signal and may have to wait a cycle to get through. It doesn't mean you can't get through, it doesn't mean dead stop, it doesn't mean breakdown conditions. It just means you're experiencing delays that have been determined in the industry to be a little more than practical. So in terms of the question, in terms of levels of service, the left turn movements into the driveway, and I'll really just go to what it would be like when full development occurs, because that's really the key. And that's documented in the traffic report. So the levels of service for the Kings Highway driveway are all levels of service. A, turning left into the driveway, as well as left into Kings Landing Road, stays A levels of service. Coming out of Kings Landing Road are B levels of service. And coming out of Augustus Way, once everything is developed, in the AM peak hour, it would be a C level service, and the lower in the PM peak hour would be just into B level of service, CB level service. All excellent levels, all good levels of service. With regard to the driveways on the connector road,
Sorry, are you saying CD as in dog or CB as in dog?
D as in dog, just in that, it's just on the CD verge, it's just in that level. And then it's really related to the traffic flow on Kings Highway East. It's because a person stopped to make a movement has to choose a gap in the highway. But it's still at operating acceptable levels of service. The connector road, which is obviously lightly traveled, relatively lightly traveled, again, all the left turns in will be A levels of service, and all the other movements exiting the site will be B levels of service or better. So really seeing good levels of service with full development of both the should the residential project go alone and the commercial project never be developed, the driveways will all operate at basically sea levels are certainly better, mostly A's and B's throughout the system. So we're seeing some good operations on the roadway. We are asking a waiver for construction of sidewalk along Kings Highway East in order to preserve the tree line. We think it's more appropriate to contribute to the township sidewalk fund, so the township can utilize those funds to maybe fill in in other more appropriate places, missing sidewalk lanes. We certainly have provided substantial sidewalk opportunities throughout the community. The sidewalk on both sides of the streets throughout the community, connecting to the connector road. The connector road has sidewalk on both sides of the street, and ultimately with the commercial development, there is a significant sidewalk system being constructed between the connector road and Route 35. There is existing sidewalk on Kings Highway East on the south side in front of the Kings Landing that runs all the way down to 35. So that will be augmented by the additional sidewalk connectivity being constructed with the residential project and the other projects. So we believe it's appropriate to preserve the tree line and not create a redundant sidewalk at Kings Highway and give the township the opportunity to use the commensurate cost to probably infill in other more appropriate locations missing links in the township. So I think that's a reasonable waiver request. I think that's it, John.
No other questions for Mr. Pittman?
I have a question. The three entranceways are going into the project itself. You think that it would be a good idea to put some kind of a rumble strip or a coming in and going out of these entranceways so people going into the project know that it's going to be slower driving?
I don't think that's necessary. In this case, if you look at the design of all three entranceways, they are T-stubs, they're short, so really you can't come up to any speed, they're not continuous roads. Augustus Way comes in and within about 100 feet, it's a T intersection with a stop sign, so there's no speed involved with that. The same thing with Edmund Way, it comes in and T's inside about 120 feet or so, so there's really no distance to grab speed. And the same thing with Oliver Court. So I don't see the need to utilize remedial traffic calming measures in this case. We do have stop bars, stop signs, and while not shown on this plan, there are also crosswalks in all the appropriate places that...
Are the crosswalks going to be different pavement, somehow sort of bricking or anything?
I don't believe we proposed that, no, I think they're okay, they're all painted. But they're at every intersection, every place where there's handicap ramps throughout the site.
What is your highest level of activity on the in and outs of the three?
In general, the evening is typically the highest, so the total in and out in the evening is 196 trips over the course of an hour, and that's the 130 inbound and 66 outbound. So that typically is the highest, and that, as I said, that coincides based on all our studies. The highest volumes we're seeing in the adjacent roadway area is that evening hour. Morning hour is running roughly 15% to 20% lower than the evening hour in the 35 car.
What I'm really asking is activity within any of the three. For instance, it appears to me that Edmund Way is going to pick up more traffic by far.
Which driveways?
Yeah.
Let me take a look at that real quick.
Yeah, I think Edmund Way.
Yeah, in terms of how we decided to analyze it, because we wanted to test particularly our driveway on Augustus Way, our assignments have most of the traffic, or a significant amount of traffic going to Augustus Way. But I would agree with you, we probably will peel off more traffic onto the connector road, which would actually relieve and reduce the actual traffic on Augustus Way. But when we did the traffic study, we really wanted to test where the higher volumes are, which are on Kings Highway, and what would happen if the heavier flow went there. So the traffic study basically is showing the Augustus Way as being the heaviest use, but I don't disagree with you that the connector road drivers actually may get a little more activity. That would be great, because this is where we have a lot of capacity to handle traffic.
So that could possibly limit traffic on Kings Highway.
Yeah, it could. The whole purpose of the connector road is to intercept that traffic and move it, and I think it will do that, and it'll help. And it'll also give other opportunities ultimately for existing residents to potentially distribute to Kane's Lane and utilize the infrastructure that's ultimately getting built with the shopping center on Route 35. The purpose of the connector road was to create that, and I believe it will work that way, but we didn't completely rely on it in our analysis.
Because most of the traffic going to the connector road to get into the complex will be over 35.
That's correct. The majority of the residential traffic, because it is heading to places of business, it is heading to places of shopping and so forth, is oriented to 35, so the connector road receives it. So, it's like anything else. Most of us choose our travel path for various reasons. A lot of it obviously is convenience. If you live close to Edmund Way, that's going to be your way in and out if you're in the back end. But some of us choose it because we like to drive a particular route. And I'm a little bit odd. I take a little longer way to work because I want to stay off of Route 1, so I can stay on some of the county roads.
But I can see the people living on the, I guess that would be more the east side. No, I guess the other side of
East side, right?
Right there. That would be Augustus Way.
Correct.
And then people, like you pointed to, would most likely take the connector road.
Correct. So I think when you really try to break it down, if you really try to focus in and analyze this, you'd find that probably that northeast quadrant is going to be oriented to Augustus Way, and you can find the way in that way. And then the middle section, centered around Edmund, is going to use Edmund, and that back end is going to be Juliet Lane is going to probably be the lightest use. It's really the back end.
Right.
Is the connector road at 30 mile/hour speed limit or 35?
We're posting it at 25. We talked about that a little bit when we were discussing the commercial site plan hearing. So it is proposed to be residential local street, which should be posted at 25 miles per hour.
The Augustus Way exit, is that going to have a left-hand turn lane? And it's the only exit on Kings Highway, so you might get it back up.
Now, the drive, everything's a one-lane approach, such as the same as Kings Highway, everything is a one-lane approach, and we're not finding any backups. I should talk to when we located the driveway on Kings Landing, opposite Kings Landing Road. We did that for a couple of reasons. One is because Kings Landing Road already creates a point of conflict, and when you can, as a traffic engineer, avoid additional points of conflict, you look to align. So we did it from that standpoint. We also know that there's good sight lines at Kings Landing Road based upon the existing configuration of that intersection, which is on the inside of the curve, and an engineering analysis that we did of the profiles along Kings Highway. So we achieved really good sight lines at that location and stopping sight distance for turning movement. So we don't believe we need additional turning lanes.
I think what's going to affect the use here is, as you described, a D-level of service on Augusta. That's going to chase more people down to Edmund.
Correct.
If you're going to make a left turn down it, that's got to be.
I don't disagree. I don't think it's not a D-level service is not a difficult level of service. It's experienced throughout most intersections throughout the state, but I don't disagree. People are going to. The advantage of the infrastructure that's being built is it's creating the ability for traffic to dissipate a little bit and find new ways to move around. The connector road goes a long way to do that, and then when the commercial project comes in with the infrastructure that it's building, it augments that by enhancing the connectivity to Route 35 creates the ability for the traffic to find the right travel routes.
I'm sorry, would you tell us the level of service at Valley Court?
At which one?
Yeah, the Valley Court.
Oh, Ballard Court? I would say that that's all Bs or better, but we'll just shorten the record. Yeah, so again, all the movements are quite frankly A, except in the PM hour. There is an E on the eastbound approach, so we analyze it as it's actually the E, the B is coming out of the retail, so it's A is in and out of Ballard Court.
That's it.
Any comments? We did provide them a comment letter, which they addressed the comments in that letter, so I don't have any further questions or comments.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Come on, your first thing.
Joseph Lamonaco, 83 Woodland Drive, Lomonaco.
We just had to read this for record, for testimony that the words truth, whole truth, and nothing but God.
Yes. So I have really one question, because we're looking at this project like it's an island. The problem is it's going to spew out into the world. Now, what happens if this is approved and it doesn't work?
What doesn't work?
The whole traffic flow, because it's not going to work. So that's really my only question.
And the question is, if Mr. Pankey is entirely wrong, and this turns into gridlock,
It's not going to work, and it's impossible, because we all drive and we know what happens. So my question is, what happens if this doesn't work?
well, then this project will fail. And the rest of us in Middletown will suffer.
Okay, thank you.
Next.
I'm sorry. Could you give us your name and your origin number?
Yeah. Thomas Ryan. You mentioned about building a sidewalk on Kings Highway East. There's a sidewalk already on one side.
Correct.
Okay, on the other side, how are you going to build a sidewalk and preserve the trees at the same
Correct.
time?
So what I testified to is we are actually requesting a waiver from the board's requirement to construct a sidewalk. The board has the option to, in lieu of requiring us to construct a sidewalk, to accept the equivalent in terms of contribution towards the township sidewalk fund. Our recommendation and request is that we contribute to the fund rather than build a sidewalk, since there is already a sidewalk opposite the street, and to construct a sidewalk on our side, as you know, would require us to take down trees. We think it's more appropriate not to construct a redundant sidewalk, to maintain the trees and berm that's there, and to allow the township to use the funds that we otherwise would pay to build the sidewalk in a more appropriate place.
Thank you for the explanation.
You're welcome.
to know, what's the depth of the tree line?
Mr. Kennedy testified that to that last time. I don't know that I have.
I'm sorry, I thought that you
Yeah,
would know
that would
that
be-
because the sidewalk isn't gonna be there, so.
I could probably get that information for you, pull it.
So, against
Along
Kennedy.
Kings Highway East.
Yeah, along Kings Highway East. All right, I'll ask the next question while he's looking it up. Because you don't have sidewalks on that side of the tree line, are there going to be crosswalks again on Kings Highway East? So people can get to the other sidewalk?
Yeah, so there will be a crosswalk at the connector road, and since under what's known as Title 39, which is the state motor vehicle regulations, an intersection of Kings Landing Road and Augustus Way as established. Legally, there's already established by statute pedestrian crossing, so we can stripe in a crosswalk from the sidewalk we have on Augustus Way across to Kings Landing Road, similar to as we are doing
Are
down.
you going to do two of them at Augustus Road? or
No, we would only do
just
one because there's only sidewalk on one corner.
One side on Augustus Way?
That's correct.
Okay, good. And you didn't say this, so it wasn't clear to me. Is there stop signs on the egress on all of these?
Yes. Yes, so similar to Kings Landing Road and Delaware Drive, there will be a stop bar and a stop sign on all of the exit
Oh,
roads.
okay, thank you. And they're all just two-lane, these roads that are,
One lane roads,
right, one-lane roads.
one in, one out.
One in, one out, thank you. Did you find out the answer?
Yes.
Oh,
For the board's information, that's Andy Comey, he's testified before you, he's from the county engineer.
Yeah, he hasn't testified here. Not in this matter.
Another hearing.
So in general, to the west of Augustus Way, that tree line is about 30 feet wide, the buffer area there. And then as you go to the east, it's 30 feet, but then it varies as Kings Highway turns.
As it turns, okay, great, thanks. What's the impact of truck traffic and what kind of size the trucks are going to be going into this, especially in and out of Augustus Way?
Well, in terms of truck traffic, it would be what's typical to a residential community, such as our neighbors on Carriage Drive. So it actually would be, after the community is completed, the same probably delivery guys, parcel post, Amazon and so forth, which are typically the step.
Okay, but at the connector road, that's going to have all the major truck traffic to feed the commercial?
Correct, so the connector road is designed also to accommodate the truck flow into and out of the commercial development, and it's designed with geometry to accommodate
Is
that.
that one lane?
It's one lane in each direction, it's 30 feet wide.
So it's extra wide?
Yeah, it's designed to accommodate all of the types of vehicles that are intended to use that road.
Okay, so there's no like going left into, okay, so you don't have a left turn lane if they wanted to come into that from the other direction?
Along Kings Highway,
No, this way.
left turn lanes along the connector road.
Yes.
No, we're proposing it's a 30-foot carway, which is more than sufficient to accommodate.
And here's the two of them. Okay. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Robert Phelan, Kings Highway,
Just spell your last name.
PHEL, yeah.
Right, please raise your right hand. Swear testimony you have before the truth, all truth, and nothing but the truth. This is for question.
That's over. Would you mind explaining to me any of the assumptions you made in coming to your opinions that you formed about the traffic, the projected traffic for this?
Well, the assumptions, remember the assumptions, the calculations based on several components. One of them is a collection of actual data on the roadway system, which for this project we've been collecting it for many years and retesting ourselves. In terms of the projection of traffic, we rely on a database that is maintained nationally by the Institute of Transportation Engineers. It is a collection of data of actual traffic counts of similar communities throughout the state, throughout the country, which is a reliable source to project the amount of traffic we can anticipate for a project such as this nature. And then the distributions is a calculation based upon demographic data where people go to, want to travel to get to work, with residents, supplemented by taking a look at what the existing traffic patterns are suggesting to us.
And part of your assumptions in regards to the future traffic, that involves the change of the redevelopment of Route 35 going north and south, is that correct?
It includes growth factors that are established by the Department of Transportation that give us a reliable estimate of how traffic will grow, which takes into account ongoing growth and development in communities throughout the state. And those are updated on a yearly basis.
But Kings Highway East, that goes down into Route 35.
That's correct.
And do you know what they call that island in the middle there, Route 35?
I bet there's all sorts of different local political rules for that, but
You're,
I'm aware that the island is problematic through the years and has some development in it, but it exists. It has nothing to do with this project, and it will continue to exist.
all right, it's called Hazard Island, you perhaps heard that.
I've heard that as one of them.
Traffic engineers have testified in the past that there would be no problems, and then 6 weeks after it was approved, it was in fact attack on Route 35. So we just want to make sure that we get the facts straight as to what assumptions are being made here. And is there going to be any changes to the lights and the roads on 35 where it meets with Kings Highway in order for your projected traffic flow to work as you're opining today?
So associated with the residential development, no. The connector roads being built with the residential development access. Associated with the commercial development, which was previously approved, there are substantial improvements being constructed along Route 35 at Woodland Drive and at Twin Brooks. So those improvements are all permitted by the department, and we had a discussion with regard to those at the prior meeting and prior application.
And there's an assumption that those will be approved by the state. They haven't.
There's no assumption they're fully approved. Fully approved, fully designed, and ready to go to construction by the owner of the commercial project.
And have those been any discussion upon whether or not the changes to the state lights would encroach upon not Kings Highway East, but the historic district of Kings Highway?
They do not.
But you're projecting as part of your increased traffic flow, another 27% of these people in these residences going traveling along Kings Highway to Parkway, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I ask you about the two, first go to the identifiers, Warren Hope, and you were sworn before.
Yes. Question again about the sidewalk.
Sure.
Because on the other side, there is a sidewalk on Kings Highway East, but it ends.
It terminates what would have been the eastern end of the Nolan, Kingsland development. So it extends pretty much along our entire frontage, opposite our frontage along the Kings Landing Road. It ends probably just in the middle of this triangular shape on Exhibit A2.
I guess a question is, there's one part on Kings Highway East where there's no sidewalk on either side. There's no shoulder, and I tried riding my bike or jog on it. It was very dangerous. And will that still exist?
That will exist, but certainly one of the things the township could consider with the sidewalk fund that we're contributing to is potentially infilling some of that sidewalk.
Because on the other side, the sidewalk does start, but there's about a 200-foot gap where you go over a little hill, and it's really tight.
Correct.
It's very poor.
Correct. So that's one of the reasons why we're suggesting it's more appropriate to contribute to the fund, and then the township can decide where to use that. I think during the commercial hearing, we heard that train station also is needed. So I think, that priority by the governing body would need to be done.
Okay. Well, it seemed like there'd be a nice to put one there since it's so close to the property.
That's something that the governing body can decide to do.
Come on.
Manhattan. So, that's the sidewalk thing. So, you're not proposing to make any connection from here all the way up to the existing, all the way up to the existing where it is?
Correct.
There.
We believe it's appropriate to preserve the tree line and the buffer and allow the township to better use the funds.
You had mentioned something about getting a waiver to do that?
It's a waiver from the site, site plan requirement.
Site plan.
Sidewalk requirement, it's a waiver, so instead, so what it would do is, they would see contribution in view, there's a mathematical calculation, so whatever it would cost the township to construct it, they pay it, and if there's a trust fund that they need to deposit.
Okay, so the waiver is basically something that if this all gets approved, the waiver would automatically be approved as well?
The board has to consider.
Okay.
That would be part of the resolution, it says.
Okay.
Contribution to the site.
But it kind of spells out the amounts.
Right, no, those calculations are all in there.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I guess, so those funds though, there's nothing that says that they're going to be used to actually connect those sidewalks or make it safer for the people that already live there to get down to the residential or the commercial portion of that. That would be
part of the township's capital improvement program, which is controlled by the township council.
okay. So the developer doesn't feel like that's
It's not on frontage. We feel it's better to give the money for the town to consider that.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lisa Walker, 18 Packer Drive.
Please raise your right hand, swear to affirm the testimony that the board the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do. I have a question. Earlier at another meeting, you had mentioned bike lanes. In the residential area, how are you with these one-lane lanes, two lanes, one going each way, going to add in the bike lanes that was discussed also with the commercial area?
Well, in terms of the connector road, at a prior application, a meeting associated with commercial development, we described that the connector road is being designed with what's known as complete street principles, which means that the lane widths, the 30-foot wide carway, which creates a 15-foot lane in each direction, is creating a bicycle compatible lane, which is enhanced by the sidewalks to the outside. Inside the residential community, it's basically bicycles share the road. The residential site improvement standards were set in order to create carway widths that are appropriate for the types of traffic, including bicycles, that use residential streets. And there was a careful thought process and balance set up to avoid over-widening streets in residential neighborhoods, because problems that have existed was speeding. The wider you make a street, the straighter you make a street, the faster by it. So the balance was that a 24-foot wide street with the level of traffic that you can anticipate internal to a residential development appropriately accommodates both cars and bicyclists within the carway.
Thank you. And my other question about that same kind of thing, how many cars per unit are you anticipating? And if they have visitors, and how much parking is allotted?
So that was testified to by Mr. Kennedy, but to give you some of the answer to that, each unit has a 2-car garage and a 2-car driveway, so in theory you could put 4 cars there, although the residential site improvement standards only allow us to count it as 3.5 spaces. visitor spaces and common area spaces are provided throughout the development. You can see the perpendicular parking spaces that are striped on E2 in various locations within the development. There's, I think it's, let's see, 219 common area spaces throughout the development. So in total, there's just over 1,000 spaces available on the site, which actually well exceeds the requirement. The requirement of our residential site improvement standard is 672 spaces. We exceeded because we end up with basically 3.5 spaces on each unit right on the property.
Right. We know the number of cars are growing per household. Yeah, that's just a normal thing. Okay, I'm sorry, I just want to go back to the bike lane for a second. Now, that's great how the bike lane is going to go across, right, above the commercial development. Does it also go around? I mean, are you considering that these people in this neighborhood are going to ride their bike on that great bike lane there, and then where are they going to end up? Are they going to be able to go around the whole commercial?
Well,
And there was talk, I'm sorry, and there's also talk about the bike lane going across 35 as an access.
Well, ultimately, with the improvements proposed to be constructed by the developer, there's bicycle compatibility lanes that are brought out to Route 35. And it's not really a bike lane, the bike compatible lanes. They're 50-foot wide lane. And then with the reconfiguration of the traffic signals, the pedestrian crossing of those signals will be substantially changed and improved in order to accommodate both the pedestrian and bicycle with proper push buttons and proper time factored in to cross the road, because that's a requirement of the state. So all of that will happen as a result of the other application that's being made.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Seeing no one else, make a motion to close the public portion on this witness.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Mr. Chairman, there's one thing I'd like to direct the board's attention to the redevelopment plan. While the testimony was going on, I reviewed it on page 15 in section 2 is the enabling legislation for the uses on the rooftop, on the roof terraces. Earlier we were speaking about that note that said, referred to it as being for the height issue. Earlier in that section, it does provide rooftop decks may be accessed via enclosed stair tower. The decks will be provided for purposes of providing residents an opportunity to outdoor living space. They contain a rooftop deck along with awnings, shade structures, outdoor fireplace, gas grills, outdoor kitchen, and similar elements. So there's two sections that address that. The first is the enabling legislation I just read you, and then the second is the how it's considered for the height calculation. So it is very clearly spelled out, and you have asked, and our clients agreed that we'll put together a bullet point or an outline of the points that would be considered as regulatory by the homeowners association.
When?
Tomorrow, by 11 o'clock. What do you want us to do? We need a few minutes to organize it.
You have to go through fire too, right?
I'm sorry.
You have to go through fire to make
All
Yeah.
construction goes through fire. These plans, in their current state, have been reviewed by the fire officials. And there were some comments that I think we dealt with on the design side through the already. They were primarily focused on the location of hydrants and water supply for fighting fire, and adequate access for their equipment throughout the development. In terms of the rooftop, it's really a building code compliant issue, and it is common, and I realize that it's not in your town, but I can tell you that within the last few 6 months or so, I've presented applications in Red Bank that have, for 4 different applications that have at least 5 rooftop amenities there. Some, all multifamily, not a single family, I shouldn't say all. I think they were all. Multifamilies where these were areas were made, there's a communal, if you will, a community type of grill and tables and just the amenities that make it comfortable and so forth. And I have to suggest that my observations as the attorney for these developers, and they're responding to the impact, input from clients and customers, very popular.
Is that across from the Two River? Is that across from the Two River there?
Well, the one that's most prominent is going up near the train station.
Yeah.
It's called the Rail Project. It's got four different sections of it that have outdoor rooftop amenities. No, this is Dental's. Anderson is, I don't know if they have rooftop amenities, I didn't represent them.
A number of us on the board don't doubt that it's popular for the purchaser. It's the concern about the effect, again, the quality of life of the people over on Carriage Drive, West Farm Road, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, there was a lot of testimony about the buffering to be installed, the separation between the buildings and the property line, and then from the rear property line, there was further to the backyards. And my suggestion is that from our perspective, and I would like the board to consider the possibility, the rooftop should be considered nothing other than another outdoor, it's just like someone else's backyard. So the issue of noise,
It's like 50 feet the air.
well, that's another thing. They're further removed from creating any direct impact than an adjoining neighbor. For example, if the neighbors have a party and it gets going a little more violent perhaps than we'd like to see, we call the police. It's just not something that we deal with otherwise. Here, this is removed, it is buffered, and it's probably very low visibility from the ground level to the activities that would be on the deck. And also, instead of having it even as the communal aspect of it, where more than one of these residents, it's a single residential home. So even if they had, parents went away and it was, in May or the end of high school, you may well have a pretty wild party there, but I think that would be very rare and certainly not something that would be encouraged by the homeowners association. So I'm going to consult with my clients, we're going to put together a list of those kind of restrictions to try and address the things that you guys raised as questions. Safety issues from the wall protection, I think that's been addressed by the architect, and of course they're sensitive to that. And then I can't tell you, I guess my clients are unable to tell me that I can say to you, we expect 70% of the customers to buy the roof deck or not. They don't have that data developed to that degree for this project.
Does homeowners have a renting group of homes like this in New Jersey or at least in Pennsylvania? Something that's active type of a compound like this with the roof deck in New Jersey now?
And this is the first.
This is the first?
First thing in New Jersey. We do it in Pennsylvania.
Could I recall Mr. Green to answer that question?
Yes, as I mentioned, we do have this option in a number of different projects up and down the East Coast. One that is to be most familiar, that's built, there's a project called 2400 South in downtown Philadelphia, where I believe about 60 to 70% of the residents did choose the roof deck. We're also building them at a project in Valley Forge near the King of Prussia Mall. Just to name ones in Pennsylvania. We also are building them in New York currently, as well as all over the place in Maryland.
I know you probably have tested the marketing. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think the concept, I feel so strong that the concept of that type of look in our particular neighborhood might not work. And I know you may sell a lot of them, you may sell none. I just don't see it right now in our neighborhood. I see it along the river, Hackensack, or on the Hudson. I just don't see, I have a problem with that type
No,
of
the
thing.
thing is, what you're forgetting is it's not our neighbor's buying this. It's not.
It's a whole new,
it's a
it's a whole new, maybe a lot of millennials will
not mandatory either. If it's not, if somebody doesn't want one, they're not gonna buy it. It's not an inexpensive option either. It's not costly to develop. So it's, and I think that if you looked at some of the other developments Cola's done in the area, you'd be satisfied with the quality of the development and design. It's very good.
I mean, and I said this to Chairman Roy, saying, my concern is less about the actual roof deck, and you've answered kind of my fire safety questions and whatnot. My concern is for the people that live on the other side of the neighborhood, specifically on that strip, right? There's a lot of potential roof decks in there. The ones overlooking the top side of the neighborhood there. To the point, I mean, it's 50 feet in the air. You testified it's could be a $30,000 option. If I buy that townhouse and I'm putting an extra 30 grand in there to build a deck, I'm gonna hang out on it, right? And potentially overlooking my neighbor, right into my neighbor's yard. I don't think that's a good quality of life experience on that particular strip. So I would love to hear some mitigating factors. The easiest one being, hey, those 44 units don't get this option, right? You just don't build a stick protector, right? Because I don't remember what you testified, what the testimony was regarding the height of the trees and the buffer, but I don't think there was a 50-foot tree, like a tree or something, right?
Well, the buffer is substantial. It's being enhanced. There is an elevation issue in terms of where these buildings locate. And of course, the whole property, you heard the testimony, has it slopes from north to south. So that will have some effect. And I think there was, I'll review the transcript, but I know there was some testimony about it.
Yeah, so I'm not asking for the specifics of the testimony now. I'm asking for what can be done beyond what's already been testified to mitigate that effect for that particular area and not challenging the entire development. Because I disagree. I think people will buy this option in this neighborhood and in Middletown because the character of the town is changing, right? And that's just the way life is. But there's a particular point of impact on that side of the development where it abuts Cabot Drive, where it faces the back of Cabot.
Well, I think I understand your question, and I would just ask you to consider that how is this significantly different than anyone else's backyard when you take into account the height, take into account the separation by distance, and that is one of the most likely, if it's only the end units that have 3 sides. Most of those units have front and rear. So I appreciate that, and I think there is provided substantial distance separation, not to mention the existing vegetation that's there that will be preserved and what's going to be planted. But I don't know how you, if you're worried about a direct visual, no, when you're in any tall building, you're able to look down just like you can look up.
No, I hear you, and I thank you for the response, and I would just ask you to perhaps talk to your client and say, are there other things that we can do that have not already been discussed? Perhaps on that side, making it a 6-foot wall instead of a 4-foot wall to block something that could be. Perhaps.
By the way, I think it can fit 5 feet within the height of the height limitation of buildings. So I think that's reasonable. One, would be pleased to discuss that.
That would be quite reasonable if you could make it a 72-inch, 60 or 72-inch wall.
Well, I think there's more to it than just saying go 72. They got to do the wind checks and all that stuff. But
yeah.
Well, you asked, but if I may, you asked a specific issue to be examined and respond, and we will do that.
Thank you.
I may say reasonably presented, and I will respond reasonably. Thank you.
Because of the view into the yards on Carriage, because I don't think, as was stated, I don't think you're going to find trees that are going to protect that view. Because
You may be right, but I'm thinking that as you're viewing, you still have to look through the trees, and to see somebody's backyard, you got to do this angle. You're going to, the trees will give you some, otherwise you're going to be looking further up and be out towards the street. However, maybe that, we could do a quick study and show you that. And I may be wrong. But
John, can we just clarify, there's something that we talked about at the last hearing, but I know it's been a long time. There's actually a 25-foot wide strip along here that's it's outside of our limited disturbance, so we're leaving the existing trees in that 25-foot strip, and then we're planting additional new trees in the area beyond that 25 feet in the backyards of the proposed homes. So the height of those existing trees varies tremendously, obviously, but they're not brand new trees.
Oh, I understand that. I just, hearing the concerns of the people on Carriage Drive, I just think it needs to be explored further. And perhaps, I don't know whether the developer, as stated, would consider not putting the rooftop decks along that line, along Carriage Drive. I don't know whether that impacts the development in your return that much. But I would like, along with the other things being looked at, to have that looked at to see if you will sell enough of the rooftops away from Carriage Drive to just protect their quality of life to some extent. I understand it's not going to be that bad, but until it's done and the people are using the rooftops, you're not going to know the noise, what can be seen, and those kind of things until it's done.
Well, I think we can project pretty well what would be visual for the normal person standing there.
But you can't really project what they're going to put up there. And what's going to be barbecues and, I don't know, whatever else, outdoor kitchens and things like that. A lot of it you're not going to be able to see because it's going to be up so high. But reflecting on that, then you're going to be looking down. And granted, I understand what you're saying about when you back away a little bit from the line, you have to look through some trees. But
Well, I think even if you were leaning over the edge of the parapet, you're still going to have the same view. I think that needs to be demonstrated. But all these questions are now being identified as specific issues that we can respond to.
I think it would just be good to explore. Okay.
So that and the checklist for the homeowners association, would you agree to, the client is agreeing to see if shake his head? Okay. Any other questions, comments that we need to cover before we figure out what we're doing on?
No, that's my only concern is the
I
residents along Carriage.
I agree 100%.
There's been some additional testimony, and I'm not looking for a long time, but there's been some additional testimony that if somebody had questions about that particular testimony, they could ask them now. But questions just limited to the additional testimony, Mr. Markovich and Mr. Green.
So,
Does the public understand? You're allowed to ask questions of what we just exchanged here, us, the attorney, and the board members.
I have a comment. A question. I have a question.
Turn your comment into a question.
The board still has to open the hearing up to public comment. So that hasn't happened yet. It'll have to happen at some point prior to the conclusion of the public hearing. So if that's what you're intending to
I
do.
have a question. Thank you.
My name is Oleg Pacenzo, that's D-I-C-E-N-S-O. And
I'm going to trust you with just questions.
Okay. My question is, when considering the roof deck that is overlooking the carriage drive, will you also consider the decks that are on the back of the building to possibly eliminate the decks? Because there are also, you have decks on the back of the building, correct? On the townhouses, and you also have a rooftop. The decks will be just as offensive overlooking into the residents of them on Carriage Drive. So I'd like the board to also request that the developer consider an option on the decks. That's my question. Will you? All right, the decks, you have decks on the back. there are decks over that, there's decks.
Correct. And you showed them.
So my request and what I'm asking is will you also consider an option for the decks as well as the rooftops along the carriage drive? I guess we've got about 38 minutes. About that.
44.
Is it 44? Yeah, that's a big number.
I think it's pretty clear, they're not going to do that. So you can ask them and they can come up with their answer.
Those decks are.
We're not able to answer that.
Those decks are only 10 feet in the air.
20.
No.
Yes, it's under up.
No, right.
They're low grading, no, they're grading.
They're on the grade.
Well, you're going to be able to do a lot more on a rooftop deck, though, than you will on the decks out back. So I think if you're going to, you know.
I'm just throwing it out there.
No, I know.
There's a saying, when you do little stuff, really.
True. Anyone else?
Laura Patton, when you guys look to consider roof decks and whatnot, you should also maybe take another look at the 25 feet of existing buffer that's there, because a lot of the trees back there are not very tall, and a lot of them are dead, or almost dying, or coming down with every big storm like we had last Monday. So, as a resident of Carriage Drive, and I know a couple of my neighbors couldn't be here tonight because they're traveling, none of us want roof decks. I have a 2-year-old son, I don't want people watching him play in his backyard.
And he's right handsome, by the way, I saw a picture.
Thank you.
The buffer, we're talking about the existing buffer.
Yeah, they talked about an existing buffer, I think they said.
25 feet?
No, I'm just saying, you guys said that they're quite tall trees and really,
What we've done on similar types of situations where there might be some thin spots in existing buffers, supplement those thin areas to bolster the buffer.
there's no roof decks completely on that side. Thank you.
Anyone else?
That concludes then their testimony, cross-examination on the architects and Mr. Markovich's testimony. Do you have any other witnesses, Mr. Carter?
No.
So we could move you.
September 4th?
Yeah. Is that enough time for you and the client?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to say yes, and if I find out between now and Friday that I'm not, I'll call Aaron and Jim and Mr. Gordon and make sure that we know that, but I don't see any problem. think we want to get a few things ready for the meeting. We'll try and submit them 10 days in advance, and if we can't, we'll present them as a supplement at the meeting.
We're getting, other way to prepare is the best place would be November 6th, because it's not. But you know what I mean now.
Would your client consider, he's talking a 72-foot wall, where you would really, 72-inch walls? Perhaps the upper 2 feet done in a type of decorated type open brick. You've seen them, they're like crisscross bricks, where you would not, where it would give you the privacy and would also give
some kind of louver.
No, you have the crisscross brick where you cannot see in, you cannot see out. It gives you more of an illusion of an open type thing. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
I do know what you're talking about, and we were discussing a variety of different lattice.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
But it would be
to give privacy for the people that they cannot see in and you really cannot see out.
right. So we would really like to work on this tomorrow, come up with a couple of ideas and various different materials that can be used. We can talk to your professional, we can prepare for the next hearing.
That'd be great, thank you.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see.
November 6:30 p.m.
It's carried without further public notice to September 4 at 6:30.
It will be first on the agenda.
I don't know if we need an extension, but implicitly carrying it.
I think we do it because I think it's an extension, so I'll represent you.